God damn, that's loud. Hey,
Be loud.
Weather report for May 9th, 2022. So barely made it.
Barely made it. So did your son have like documentation he needed to get, or was everything okay?
No, it's just we went to one of these, like we drove outside of the Twin Cities to a country town, and it was so goddamn fast that I thought something was wrong. He didn't get his license, but he got his license. So,
well, sometimes City Hall or county, I don't know who does it for you, but will surprise you.
Yeah. Yep. Oh boy. Let's see. So really exciting news. There's a conference in Israel where a whole bunch of ideas and young Earth creationists are going to meet with real scientists.
Give them a chance to learn something.
Yeah. Let's see. Program. Where is it here? Let me take a look. Okay. So anyway, it's called now. Sal Cordova is really excited about this, as we will show you. He's really excited.
I'm sure he probably just nodded his head with a satisfied grin.
Yeah.
Maybe he did a thumbs up, but I don't think you can get that excited over a conference.
Yeah, and he keeps calling it the Limitations of Evolution Conference, and it's actually potential and limitations of evolutionary processes. And so it's basically a takeoff on the Royal Society in 2016 did a whole blurb on the evolutionary or the extended synthesis of evolution and whether or not we need to modify some evolutionary language and wording and all of that. And, and I think we're going to be modifying for a long time. But anyway, so there's a whole bunch of people like, I don't know, Stephen Benner. Do you know who he is?
Stephen who?
Stephen Benner.
I saw the name when I was looking at the program, but other than that, no, I don't know the name.
Yeah, so Stephen Benner is going to be there. I don't know who he is. Sir John Walker and Ada Yonath, they do work in, Sir John Walker does work in ATP synthetase, and Ada Yonath does work in ribosomes, and I think she's got some stuff on origin of life and origin of ribosomes. And Sal is overly excited about those two. He claims that there are no evolutionary biologists at this evolutionary biology conference, which I kind of...
Whoa. Okay, let's back up.
Yeah.
There's no evolutionary biologists there?
That's what he says. He says that over and over again, that he didn't think there's going to be hardly any evolutionary biologists. Well, then we got Jeremy England, who has a theory about abiogenesis, and I don't know. So he goes through all of them. David Snokas apparently works for the Creationist Institute. But here we have David Deemer. So I'm going to reach out to Bruce Damer and ask him what's up with his conference.
I hope he films some of it.
Yeah. But anyway, we got Origin of Life, Prebiotic Chemistry, which is good.
Now, can we get back real quick to the title that Sal thinks it is?
Yeah.
Or do you not want to go into that here?
Oh, we could go into that.
Okay, so what's the actual title?
Potential and Limitations of Evolutionary Processes.
Now, and what does Sal call it? I mean, and how many times did he call it in that video? Call it that in that video?
He mentioned he does the right name once. He kind of like chokes on the words, but I think most of the time he calls it the Limitations of Evolutionary Process.
Okay, so he's aware of the correct title, but he keeps calling it the wrong title. So is that passive aggression, or is
No.
that him seeing things as like he wants to see them?
Freudian slip. I think he looks at it and all he sees is limitations. He can't see anything else. So you see right here, it's called limitations or limits.
Yeah, that's more example of what I would encourage Sal to avoid, and that is seeing things through a very, very skewed lens, a very I don't know what the optical word would be, but a skewed way of thinking, because it's really causing mistakes, I believe. And I would just encourage him to always step back, especially before a show where he's going to put these things on video, which will potentially last a long time or be available for a long time. Understand what you're reading and understand what it says. This is like the difference between, is it Berenstain Bears or Berenstein Bears? And you just see it one way and
right
casually. But I hope it's not passive aggression, because passive aggression is a
well, that takes intelligence.
Passive aggression.
Yeah, I think so.
Athena is requesting. I'm sorry, Midnight is requesting a link.
He's what a whiner, you know.
What a whiner. No, you're not a whiner.
He's just a whiner.
Midnight. I'm sorry. For some reason, names are escaping my head. I had such an experience this morning with my car dealer, the mechanic, and this Lyft driver. That it's got my brain rattled.
Oh.
Plus my electronic issue on the console on my the entertainment console on my car is going to cost me a few bucks.
Yes, those things do.
Oh yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. In fact, just thinking about it makes me need this.
You figure? Oh no. Yeah. Wow, you got the fucking gallon size, right?
I got the gallon size because I just know sometimes that I need it. Basically, when I started taking that metformin, at first I needed this a lot more.
The gallon size. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Where am I? Athena, I sent you a fucking link. Okay. It's just like goddamn kid. Oh. I'm not sure why I clipped this.
Oh, potential and limitations of evolutionary process. Okay. I was pleased to find out I got listed as a co-author for one of the posters in the poster session that'll be held at that.
Yeah, that's what he's really excited about. His name is on one of the posters that they display during the conference for people to gather and look at and talk about, that sort of thing. So he's pretty excited.
Erica made a big deal when she had a poster.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
At the conference she went to. For
wait a minute, no, Erica made her poster.
Okay, what's the difference?
Sal didn't do anything on this poster.
Yes. Erica put together and was able to, stand next to and discuss her poster. And I did not realize that scientific posters were such a big deal at these conferences. That's just something I've obviously never been involved with, but that's.
Well, it's kind of like what you walk in and then you'll gather people around and you'll have conversations around the posters, which is pretty important. It's kind of a big deal. Congratulations, Sal, for getting your name on the poster. But
maybe we need to send, I don't know what they do at these other atheist conferences, but a poster idea would be a great thing to have, like at the Faithless Forum or whatever. I know they do little training sessions and all that, but if people could do posters ahead of time and bring in, and that would be a great idea for encouraging discussion.
Okay, Midnight's here, and if we don't let him talk, he's going to leave.
Hi, Midnight. You can talk now, please.
I heard an exasperated sigh.
I want you to tell me what you think of my Stetson. I'm going to be vain. What do you think of my Stetson here?
How did you hear a sigh when I literally didn't have my mic plugged in?
I heard you sigh.
It was a psychic thing. We know you so well that we know exactly when you're sighing.
Yeah, maybe I read that.
Well, that's kind of creepy because I was sighing at something else rather than not being allowed to talk.
No, I heard it. So you better figure out why I heard it. If your mic was off, that means that your mic doesn't go. I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening. Anyway, hi
We're-
Jefferson. Hi Jefferson. What's here?
It's good to have Jefferson here, as
Oh,
well as
thank
Woolly
you.
Ignorant. And
Believe me.
Yep. Let's see. So, what is Sal talking about? The evolution bad, evolution evil.
Yeah, it was a conference. Okay, so let's hear what Sal says about the thing. Hang
Oh
on.
yes, I don't put up with.
Well, let's see. Let me slow it up a little bit here. Just a minute.
but remember what I was talking about was the skewed way in which Sal seems to be looking at things and interpreting things around him, as at least the literature that has to do with scientific evolution, and I'm not saying that he has a theistic bias, just like we maybe have a naturalistic bias. I'm thinking, he's just not reading things right because of a desired view of the world.
Okay, read the name of his video. Limits of Evolution Conference.
I know.
Yeah. Okay, that's not the name of the conference, Sal.
It's not it at all.
No, not it at all. Not even the same meaning, so
And so,
anyway.
like I said, it's either passive aggression, or viewing the it's either passive aggression or viewing the things, the world, through a very skewed lens.
Yeah. So what do you guys think of drug addicts and alcoholics? You think they're like evil, horrible people that we should just shit on, and or do you think they're people that have a disease and a disability?
I mean, I would say why not both? But one of them is worse than the other, so we should definitely help them.
Yeah.
Well, I think a person who can input, read, experiment with, and process very complex biological and cellular concepts, and can communicate them effectively to other people, doesn't really seem to be much of a burnout.
Yeah, maybe not. Well, let's.
So
Okay,
I don't know why that person would be referred to as a burnout.
Well, let's roll this. I think he talks about Andrew here too. But
Oh yes, I don't put up with. I put up a little bit with bullies, but trolls, spammers, I don't have time for.
anybody who disagrees with him is called a troll or a spammer.
That's not what a troll is. Or
these people who think they know science and they don't, and they come here trying to lecture me on science, and just like that.
Sal reached out to me and asked me to teach him how carbon hooks up to other atoms about 2 years ago. And the video is one of the first videos I have on my YouTube site. So basically, he didn't know that carbon was tetravalent or any of that.
That's fine if you have the qualifications. But if you're like emos, just repeating talking points, I just don't have time for it. Same for Andrew Cumming.
Yep.
Same for some other guys who shall not be named. That just come here with such an attitude. And I know one of them's a high school dropout and just burned out his brains on drugs and alcohol. It's just like, well, dude, just don't come here and start insulting all the Christians on the side chat. I don't tolerate it.
Okay, no, fuck you. Pause.
We have
okay,
never,
pause.
First of all, okay, hang on. I have never insulted Christians in his side chat, ever.
Yeah, well, he's being stupid.
He's being stupid.
But here's the thing, Sal. Okay, Mike Speed's maybe a high school dropout, but but he's actually intelligent. Unlike you, who probably got, who probably paid for his degrees. I don't mean actually going to school, but
I think maybe
that came out wrong.
I think maybe he did pay for them because, like, if you've taken courses in physics, I mean, if you've gone to college, you're aware of the periodic table normally, right? I mean, and you'd know some elements, like you would know that molybdenum is an element and you'd know how to say it and you would have heard of it, I think. But yeah.
Particularly boron and molybdenum. So we believe that minerals containing both were fundamental to. We now believe that the oxidized form of molybdenum was there too.
Molybdenum? I mean, anybody who's been to college would know that it's not molybdenum. And he does it shamelessly twice. Now, maybe, I don't know. My son says, well, maybe he has trouble pronouncing words, but, I don't know. It's just me. But if you've taken a chemistry course, you fucking know it's molybdenum. It's not
particularly boron and molybdenum. So we believe.
Right? I mean, that just drives me crazy. He's calling me a fucking burnout? Fuck you, Sal. And then, okay, we got another one here.
All right, so just to tell you, guys, there are some internet pig pens I just don't really want hanging out. And
Internet pig pen? Is that what he called it?
Internet pig pen.
Is that what he said? I don't know. That's always what I thought of his channel, but
Nobody.
some of these atheist channels, like that guy who's burned his brain out on drugs and alcohol and is a high school dropout,
He is bitter.
I get to hang out with guys like
Did you hear what he said?
He keeps demanding my attention. I'm just like, sorry, guy. Brain out on drugs and alcohol and is a high school dropout. He keeps demanding my attention. I'm just like, sorry, guy. I get to hang out with guys like Henry Vidler instead, who happens to be.
Who the fuck is he hanging out with? Henry? He's not hanging out with anybody that's at that conference because he's not there. So I don't know what he's talking about. But anyway, he's kind of an ass, But he does this kind of cool thing here. Let's see. I want to get the full effect. He talks about there's two Nobel laureates there. I think there might be more actually. I'm not sure if he got them all, but anyway. Hang on a second. Pop that up. Okay. So I just wanted to play this.
2 Nobel Prize winners at this conference mingling with young Earth creationists. Bravo, bravo. 2 Nobel Prize winners at this conference mingling with young Earth creationists. Bravo. 2 Nobel Prize winners at this conference mingling with young Earth creationists. He
does this like several times in this video. It's just like, oh, Jesus Christ, he's excited about this conference. And I don't think the conference is going to turn out the way he wants it to. I
don't think the conference is what you think it is.
I don't think the conference is what he thinks it is. I don't know.
Information.
Anyway, here's the real conference list of speakers. Okay, we got a whole bunch of people here now. I'm really excited to see what they have to say in this conference. Pathways to functional islands in the protein sequence space. Now, these people probably know what the fuck they're talking about. And I don't know if there's young Earth creationists there.
Just as an educational for those of us who are in primary school here. Sequence spaces is just the possible combinations of like amino acids that can comprise a protein.
Yeah, it's the entire sequence space, and it looks like a network. So if you have a protein that has a particular configuration, it's going to be closely connected to one that is like one mutation off, right? And then it's going to be less closely connected to one that's 10 mutations off. But you're looking at the entire space of proteins. And what you're looking at is functional islands. Okay, so if you imagine the entire sequence space of all possible 100 amino acid proteins, you're going to have 100, or what is it? 100 to the 20th power. Did I get that right? I always get that backwards. Anyway, a lot of 20 to the 100th power. Okay, so 20 to the 100th power. That's a big space, right? So out of there are functional islands, and these islands are in clusters, right? So if you mutate them a little bit, they still work. They're still functional. So you're looking at for these functional islands in protein space. And that's a really big field of evolutionary research right now, how we get from one functional island to another functional island. And of course, the word functional is problematic. So it requires a lot of unpacking, basically. And here we go, evolution of novel proteins by modification and evolutionary genetics. And we got Michael Behe down here.
Hey, why not?
What is Behe? Is he which one's the philosopher? Michael Behe is the scientist. Right?
He's a scientist, and he was doing that video I sent you where he was dressed like a doctor. And I'm not a doctor, but I'm dressing like one.
Right.
So you can believe what I say about stuff I'm not.
You want to know, Scott? You want to know the really scary part about that? Is that people would actually believe somebody versus the doctor because the appearance of authority is all you really need.
Now we have one called fine tuning of biological systems. Okay, but that is not anything to do with the fine-tuning argument. So don't make that mistake.
Hey,
It's
why don't you
about
pull up the more specific itinerary? Because that'll let you know exactly what each person is speaking on.
okay. So we got, let's see, where did we have that? That was the emergence of life, chirality and spin, origin of life, prebiotic chemistry. So there's a whole lot of stuff here. Okay, overview, origin of the processes of evolution as chemistry, Stephen Benner, and universe designed for complexity from its birth, Gerald Schroeder. That sounds pretty cool. The origin of life, prebiotic chemistry, self-organization of lifelike behaviors. That's Jeremy, England. He's got a theory about how basically the universe just heads toward life because of energy, and it's kind of cool. So anyway, what else we got? We got I see we got a Will Kincaid in here. Interesting. Plenary session discussion leader was the overview, origin of life again with Ada, and then origin. Okay, origin and fine tuning of the genetic code. Now, what that means is how the genetic code first started and how it got tuned to the code that it is today. Because the code that it is today has some remarkable features in it. It's very efficient.
So it's like they're looking for a path to get from there then to where it is today.
Prebiotic to the code that we have today, and ideas about what some of the earlier codes are, and then contributions of standard genetic code to evolution and gene origins. That's interesting. And then we have origin of life lipids, and then we have, let's see, overview. Where's James Tour? James Tour is in this. We have David Deemer, assembly of nucleic acids and protocells. So it's going to be a good conference, I think. Really good conference.
I think Nerdy raises a good question.
Yeah.
How do you know when a genetic code is off key? Because you're having to fine tune it.
Oh, they've there's a couple papers statistically where they figure out what makes a really good code, a really robust code, and there's a space of robust codes. And they find that the one that we ended up with, is in a tight little cluster of highly robust possibilities.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So
that's right. It is interesting, Will Kincaid. It really is.
It really is. Plenary session, discussion. Okay, where's James Tour? Do you know where he is? James Tour has something.
He was on the 8th.
Oh, was he?
I don't know if he spoke more than once or presented more than once, but he was on. He was today. Yeah, or what was our yesterday, probably. So is our today yesterday in Israel? Or is it just a few hours earlier?
It hurts my head to even think about that.
Yeah. Or is it later? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Genes within genes, overlapping encoded genes in prokaryotes, which are really cool, are on the rise. That's interesting. Sources of lineage-specific genes. So, and then discussion and close of session. And when, oh my God, it's still, how many days is this?
It'll go, well, that's a Wednesday. So
wow,
just keep going down the list until you find what day it quits.
Evolutionary and population. So what does Michael B? When does he pop up? Oh, this guy, mutations to appear, mathematical model for the waiting time. Okay, this is that Ola Hosher, who Sal wrote a paper with, or wrote that book, that $1,400 book with. And Ola is kind of full of shit, but a good mathematician nevertheless. And let's see, Evoprotum. What the fuck is that? Evoprotum. I've never heard of that. Evolutionary modeling of protein families by assessing translocations of protein domains. That I want to hear. I mean, God, I want to be at this conference.
So somehow we need to fly to Israel, infiltrate that conference, and set up some hidden audio equipment.
Yeah. I mean, this is
audio visual because you want to see the slides.
Evolutionary dynamics, Martin Noack. Let's see, system information, creation, preservation, and historical contingencies. Interesting. Anyway, that's the end of it. So that's it.
Very,
Yeah.
very cool stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I just hope Dahmer is there and can inform us about how Mr. Tour or Dr. Tour was received.
Yep. So midnight, what the hell you been doing?
Nothing much, just hanging out.
One question: did you happen to send Andrew a link since he was mentioned? So then it's his choice.
Yeah, so he's one of those trolls that have, he just repeats talking points apparently.
So did you go see Doctor Strange or anything like that midnight?
No, I don't have a way to get to the theater.
You don't go. Okay.
Can't you go on your feet? Walk. You walk. How far is the theater?
I don't know. I doubt it's close.
You never even checked, did you? There could be one right around the corner, and you don't even fucking know, do you? See how you are?
I spent the weekend reading M. David Litwaw's Found Christianities and watching 1970s era Quinn Martin detective shows.
Yeah, so Will Kincaid is using us to sleep by. Well, that is comforting. Thank you. I appreciate that, Will. Anyway, I always wanted to have a channel people could sleep by. Have you seen the talk with Vandalia? Yes, I saw part of that talk.
Whoops.
Also, we both did it at the same time. Jinx. Okay. So what else is up, guys?
Nothing much.
The Vandalia talk, we should link that again, right? Right? Am I right?
Yeah, link it.
Yeah.
Link it. I can't remember his first name again. Leland? No, it's not Leland.
The thing is,
Lamont. His first name is Lamont.
If you look at, if you look at plants and evolution, it's a whole lot easier to show evolution in plants than it is in animals. And that's why creationists always lead us to talking about animals. They don't like when we talk about plants because it's a whole lot more obvious in plants and bacteria, I guess. So anyway.
Well, they don't care about plants because there were no plants on the ark.
Right. Why? What the fuck? How did the plant? Oh, the seeds floated around in the hellfire.
Yeah. So soaking them in brackish water doesn't kill them?
I guess not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know enough about plants to really answer that.
Well, they're pretty durable, seeds are, but I don't know about brackish water, so I'm not.
Yeah.
I'd have to. Well, I got some seeds.
I assume it's brackish, but it could be that there's a lot more salt water to it than brackish water because there's more volume of ocean.
Come here, reluctant kitty. Come here. Don't stand on my goddamn mouse pad. Come over here, kitty.
But anyway, that's just silly speculation over. It's like speculating over how a phaser works on Star Trek.
Yeah. What is happening right? Oh, cat, you've got to get off my goddamn mouse pad. Oh, fuck.
It's a catastrophe.
A catastrophe. There. Thank you, Loki. Loki somehow popped up a dictionary. I'm not sure what he's doing. I don't know. He was looking something up and I interrupted him. Now he's really pissed at me.
Neslick has an interesting commentary on
Loki
plants.
is so pissed right now.
Yes, I'd use the word interesting again, Will Kincaid.
Very pissed. Okay.
Should I can't control my eyebrows with this hat on. I should do a fascinating. Oh, did you happen to watch any Strange New World, Midnight or Speed, or anybody in the side chat?
What the hell's that?
No, I didn't yet.
That's the new Star Trek series with Anson Mount from Hell on Wheels playing Captain Christopher Pike. He was the captain of the Enterprise before Kirk. I can't hear you, Speed.
That's better. Oh, I like being muted. I can't be held accountable. I'm such a burnout. Anyway, yeah, okay, yeah. I was making the point that when somebody suffers from alcoholism and drugs, their entire life pretty much, you don't fucking make fun of them when they recover. You don't make fun of them. You don't make fun of them when they haven't recovered. Yeah, you don't make fun of them any more than you'd make fun of somebody in a wheelchair. And that is just this shows that he is a really shitty person.
Well, see, that wasn't really for him, other than not specifically mentioning your name. That was just an attack. I mean, not even, I mean, maybe you could consider it passive aggressive, but I think it crosses the line beyond that.
He's really
I just wish better things for Sal.
He's really upset that I know more than he does, and he's scared to death to go up against people that will dig into his ideas in the way I will. So.
I'm not applauding the YECs or whatever. There's a little fly buzzing around me as I keep opening the door to let the dogs in and out.
Anyway, let's. There are some spatchcocks around, aren't there? Lurking spatchcocks.
There was at least one lurking spatchcock, but I don't know what.
Anyway, what else we got going today?
I read, I went ahead and bought that subscription to Biblical Archaeological Review to get access to their backlog of stuff and everything. And I ran across something that I thought was interesting. And if you bear with me, I'll find it and share a screen real quick.
Yeah, we found also a wonderful site that shows year by year how civilizations evolved in the Middle East.
Oh yeah, it's a really great map for just lining up, what ancient cultures were there and when.
Yeah, now that I mentioned it, I should put it in the description.
It happened inside in.
Whoops.
Those are the golden pipes of Nestle. I recognize that.
Yep.
Okay, I was looking at a letter to the editor regarding an article in this copy of Biblical Archaeology Review, and this is the guy, the editor, just doing kind of sometimes editors will kind of announce, do a summary of what they're doing in that issue. And the editor, who is, I can't find, Glenn Corbett, who looks very young. He must have been using a younger picture in that one. Up next, and does archaeology confirm Joseph's time in Egypt? Archaeologist and historian Rachel Hallott investigates evidence for the Hyksos in ancient Egypt that may shed light on the historical reality of the biblical stories of Joseph and the Exodus. And so that he's just business as usual, summarizing, quickly what that particular article's about. And so you go into the article, and here's just for something to look at, here's a copy of it. And, she does an overview of what the scripture says. And notice here, you hover over a scripture reference, you get, that scripture pops up, which is pretty cool. And, they show nice little pictures of inscriptions and etchings and things like that. And they go down and they talk about how the Hyksos were a Canaanite group of people that kept immigrating into Egypt, and eventually grew so politically powerful that they kind of took over the Egypt and made the people who would traditionally be the rulers of Egypt subservient to them. So for a while there was a dynasty where it was ruled by Canaanites who had it's sort of like what happens happened in England, where you could get a person of French descent ruling over England from afar. There was just a culture, and they took things over. And from there, the author talked about a very common and well accepted view of history, in that suggesting that with lack of evidence of an exodus, that maybe there was a cultural memory among some of the people that moved from Egypt to the Hyksos, because eventually they got overturned. Eventually there was a revolution and they got overthrown. And so they're saying that some of these people might have brought in a cultural memory of going into Egypt and leaving Egypt, and maybe that was kind of the basis and the framework for what we see in the book of Exodus. And that's all the person was saying. Here's some interesting I'm not really sure what those are. Some interesting artifacts that have been found relating to the Hyksos. So it was just your standard bread and butter kind of article. But this is kind of the attitude we get among a lot of evangelicals and fundamentalists, is this letter in this issue's letters to the editor column saying, do a better job. And in the fall 2021 issue, editor Glenn Corbett introduces a new digging in feature designed to highlight exciting new discoveries, blah, blah, blah. He goes on to propose that Rachel Hallett's article investigates evidence for the Hyksos in ancient Egypt that may shed light on the historical reality of the biblical stories of Joseph and Exodus. Really? Maybe you have dismissed the idea that the Bible has any historical reality. Maybe you have substituted your reality with undeliberate notions. In any case, your logic doesn't add up. Which he doesn't. He doesn't mention the logic. He just says, I don't like that. I take the position that the Bible stands as written and does not need to be allegorized or modified to confirm archaeology, or to conform to archaeology. Okay, so here we have what's the problem with even having something called biblical I can't do the camera. Biblical archaeology. And that's the viewpoint that I'm going to choose this book as my reality.
Right.
And archaeology be damned if it can't find anything that conforms. I'm going to make that archaeology conform to this reality, or I'm going to reject anything that doesn't seem to conform. And that's the problem with biblical archaeology, with teams that come out from institutions where you have to sign a statement of faith or indicate in some way your religious commitment. Is it skews and it makes unnecessary the primacy of actual archaeology.
And it's the same with intelligent design and evolution. There is no study, no facts at all that point to a young Earth 6 to 10,000 years old. They get that from the Bible first, and then they try to verify it. So they get their information from the Bible, and then they go out and they look for little things that might be evidence for it, right?
And look at the irony here. Please avoid confusing actual archaeology with self-serving mythology. Boy, talk about the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah.
He wants the mythology of the Bible to overrule the findings of biblical archaeology.
I'm going to ask you for a link to that.
Oh, sure.
That article. So are these comments in the bottom of the article? I missed
No, this is
the queries and comments.
this is the queries and comments on this issue, the most recent issue of the Biblical Archaeology Review, commenting on a previous issue.
Okay.
You know, just like somebody will write a article and you object to something in it, so you write a letter to the editor. It's not going to appear in that same issue. It's going to appear later.
Yeah.
So, and this, here's another couple of letters, but yeah, I can I'll get you the link to that article.
Yeah, the article and the letters that you were talking about. So we'll put them both.
Okay, yeah, I'll get that to you, or we can I can PDF it up to you.
Yep. How long is it?
Anyway, that was just something that's been kind of brewing underneath my skull for a while. It just shows what I think is the misplaced attitude. You know why you can't mix religious belief and faith with actual archaeology. So and it's a historical discipline, but it uses scientific tools as part of its methodology and processes, and that's what scholars like Israel Finkelstein, William Deaver, and others, that's why they've made a commitment to first see what the archaeology says, because there's no interpretation, there's no context. It's not been, archaeological evidence isn't sifted through the hands of theologians and priests and fundamentalist evangelicals. And so you take it and you see what it seems to say, and then look at the Bible and see if the Bible has anything to say about it. But it's definitely not the primary document that you want to look at to lead you to a picture of the past.
Right. Yeah, just didn't know how it is done. Midnight, you're quiet.
I'm sorry, Midnight. I was being passionate about something.
Yeah. So this is that map, and I put this in the description. But this site, he has a whole lot of maps, like population in London, largest cities of the world, but he's also got a lot of ancient history. And this is he just rolls through the years. So we're looking at like the time. Let's see, the time that they supposedly came out of Egypt was 1200 BCE. Was it?
Or something like that. It depends on which scholars you read.
Yeah. So yeah. So how much wiggle room is in that number?
You're talking about 1200?
Yeah. So that's like 1200 years after the flood, right? Or something.
Well, I think I don't even want to think about the flood.
Yeah, well, we got to put their story together, and figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, this shows the Hittites and Assyria and Canaan and a bunch of other stuff. And I'm not sure where he gets his information from, but it really is kind of cool because he just keeps drilling down, and the more information we have, the more stuff he lights up and puts here. At some point, I think he has the 12 tribes, but I can't remember where that is. This is
to let you know how powerful Assyria and Babylon got at those different times.
Yeah, and this 757 is right around the time we think the Old Testament was edited and came together. BCE, right?
Yeah, somewhere in that time. It's the 7th or 8th century, maybe 6th or 7th.
Yeah.
There's a wide range where you certain documents that or books of the Bible were available at an earlier time and put together, but it was all put together probably about the same century or two, not counting some like Daniel, which came much later. And I am no expert. I cede all such knowledge to Dr. Josh Bowen, who will say he's not an expert in these fields, and he'll cede the expertise to somebody else. And so I'm just trying to recall these things from memory, which does not act so good sometimes.
Yep.
But yeah, this is a really colorful and impactful map in terms of just knowing exactly what the shape in terms of political strength and territory the ancient Near East was at any given time.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Oh, hey, right. I have a picture of frogs having sex on the for the thumbnail.
It's a great pinup.
Yeah, and I said it was X-rated. I wonder if YouTube is going to nail me for that. I should probably change the title. But.
Yeah, the thumbnail doesn't really look sexual in nature. It looks like the Frog Bowl playing,
Yeah.
around Super Bowl time, where maybe you would have frogs playing football.
Yeah. But anyway,
one frog is tackling another.
I found an interesting factoid on this. Let's see. I got PDFS. What if this is it? Yeah. Nope. Why doesn't that one work? I don't know why that works. Interesting factoid. 60 to 80% of all zygotes fail to create a viable pregnancy.
Yep.
And where did I get that? Oh, I got that from a lecture in a book on embryology, and one of the authors did a complete video on when does life begin, and he's talking about all the different ideas about when, some people think fertilization, and he goes on to explain how the common idea of when life begins is based on this ridiculous idea that the DNA is you, that you are your DNA. Okay. And he goes on to explain how that is simply not a fact, and it's completely unscientific to think that your DNA determines who you are. And he goes ahead and he explains why that is in some detail. And it's a lecture that you basically you buy a textbook for $200 and you scratch that little thing off, and it gives you access to these lectures. So I haven't been able to find an online version of it yet. So, but we'll see. Anyway, it might be public domain. I'm not sure. I don't think it is. I think you got to have the little scratch out. Anyway, so I got a froggy here. Oh God, you can't scroll with PowerPoint. PowerPoint sucks ass. Doesn't PowerPoint suck?
I don't get to use it that much. It was okay, when I was first using it way back, but I haven't used it in many years. And only use it just for the most bare minimum utility it offers.
Yeah. It's really sucking for me right now. I don't know why.
Anytime I try to get fancy with it, it just messes up, and I spend more time thinking about PowerPoint and how to do it than the actual subject I'm trying to communicate.
Yeah, so frogs are not like humans. Their embryos develop a little bit differently, but they have some similarities. Like when the sperm nails the egg right here on the left, you can see my cursor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when the sperm enters the oocyte right there, on the opposite side is where there's a dimple called that basically ends up being the back, or the back of the frog, the dorsal side of the frog. So the sperm determines where that's going to develop. Okay. And every body plan has a difference in how it determines where the butt in the mouth is on an organism. Okay. For frogs, it's where that sperm enters, basically. And then it becomes, then it starts dividing over here. and then it divides into a morula, which means I think it means blackberry or currant. If you've ever seen one, it's got little bumps, like a blackberry has little bumps on it, and that's called a morula, I think. Then it becomes a blastula, which means that it starts to divide into 3 different layers, and then it becomes a blastocele, where it starts developing a little watery sac around it, that sort of thing, and then a blastopore. And then we have 3 layers of tissue form in humans and frogs. So all vertebrates do this, and they form this 3 layers: ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. And the ectoderm in humans becomes both the outside of your skin, the outer layer of your skin, and your brain. So your brain kind of develops from your skin. And so do your nipples, your teeth, and what was the other thing? Nipples, teeth, and hair follicles. Okay, all have like roughly the same tissue origin as your brain.
Wow.
Think about that. Yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, and then it starts to do gastrulation, where it starts folding inward and it takes on sort of a shape. And it takes this embryonic shape, but right here, the egg hatches and it becomes a polywog. Is that what you call them? There's another name for them.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then it becomes asexual.
That sounds familiar.
Right. And we know a whole lot about the genetics involved in all of that. It's a very interesting thing to learn. It's quite surprising. Like you learn very seriously that, let me see here. What is happening right now? I just shut that off. Oh, I see. I see what happened. Okay. So we don't want that. Holy shit. I'm big. Pretty scary. But anyway, the way genes create these organisms has nothing to do with a blueprint. Now, if you read a blueprint, right, you'll look at it and it'll have sizes written on it, and it'll have a shape, of where you're going. So it'll have like an intelligent design of what you want to create. Okay, that's a blueprint. Not how genes work at all. They don't resemble that in any fashion. It turns out, there's a handful, maybe about, somewhere, there's 4 important ones and maybe 20, 30 genes that get turned on. And they basically create these gradients. Like where at one end, you'll have a high concentration of a protein. At the other end, you'll have a low concentration. And the other end will become the butt, and the end with the high concentration will become the mouth. And then from there, there's another gene that will be secreted somewhere at the bottom, and there will be 2 overlapping concentrations. And where it is really highly concentrated, you might end up with some tissue type, say red. And where it is very, very unconcentrated, hardly any, okay, on the butt end, you'll end up with white, okay? But then in the middle, where it's half and half, you'll end up with blue. And so you can end up with 3 different tissue types based on just how these gradients hook together. And that is how organisms develop. They don't develop from a blueprint that tells you what the organism is going to look like. So, hello?
Hello.
Midnight, will you quit sighing?
You okay there, Midnight?
Yeah, I just got a massage, which felt nice.
Oh, that's X-rated.
Good. I'm glad you're relaxing.
That wasn't X-ray. What?
We can't talk about these things on this channel. We're talking about frog sex. You
Come on, frog football.
Okay.
You can't mix frog sex and massage. It just ain't right. You ain't right. Anyway.
So we've got a conversation going on in the side chat about light and energy.
Oh my God.
Oh boy.
Okay. So what are we talking about? Lose energy until it interacts with another entity with similar components of itself. I don't know. So, Andrew, do you want to come in? Gur, do you want to come in? Anybody want to come in and say anything?
Is this statement true, Midnight?
What? Just so everyone knows, I'm Midnight's hero. Yeah, sure, Gur. You're definitely my hero.
Okay, there you go. You've heard it here first, folks.
Germania.
Come on in, Germania. You didn't do any. Germania needs to account for why he didn't do any streams this weekend.
No, because I was going to do streams all weekend. I was going to have like 3 or 4 streams, but I thought no, Gur's probably going to do.
Yeah, Gur will do it, and
so I will bow out.
Boom. You know, it's getting pretty confusing sometimes here in atheist land.
So Andrew will come in if Beamsy wants to have a conversation about energy. What are we having a conversation about?
Yeah, light and energy and tired light.
We got a Beamsy.
Hey, Beamsy.
I heard there were butt touches here.
I gotta go turn back on my thing that
Hello.
says
Hey,
who
Midnight.
everybody is. Hey, what have you been up to? Anything good?
Still studying into the aspects of an unusual black hole that they've discovered. Trying to discover why the hell it comes across as just so abnormal.
Oh,
So my question is that the one that they've been, saying they're going to announce anytime now, and they finally announced the big announcement that NASA was going to announce?
I don't know because I'm not working with NASA. I'm working with the University of New South Wales, so I don't actually know what NASA is going to be announcing. But the Astronomical Society of Australia have been working along in the aspect of a abnormal singularity that has 2 aspects of its mass that contradicts each other.
Oh, no.
what are they?
Do you know the 2 ways you could tell the mass of a stellar object?
No.
You can tell through the gravitational influence of the things around it. Basically, it's not the right words to use, but it's the simplest way I can put it. By looking at the way it pulls on the objects around it,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a good example, but it's the simplest way I can put it.
Okay.
And by looking at the way that light is actually refracted and reflected around it, because
Okay. Got it.
these 2 measurements we've taken about 1,000 measurements in the last 6 months, and one is saying one is 20,000 solar masses, one is saying 3 million solar masses, and that doesn't seem right. And the math is still saying that that's what the answer is, depending on which way you're looking at it. So,
My.
yeah, this is interesting.
Did y'all break standard physics, or what do they call it? The standard model?
No, it's unique to this individual singularity,
Mhm.
and it's about 7.3 billion light years away. So it's no real worry to us. It's just,
It's a scientific novelty.
yeah, it's an abnormality, and that's why it's taking up a lot of my time.
Well, that's great. You'll have to keep us posted on that. Because if it involves by singularity, do you mean black hole?
It's better to refer to it as a singularity
Okay.
because it might not actually be a black hole as we know.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, because of the way it behaves.
But correct me if I'm wrong. But aren't singularities just like a mathematical term and don't really exist? Because they do say whatever you say. Oh, the universe started as a singularity. Somebody have pointed out, well, singularities don't really exist.
A singularity is an aspect within space-time. That's a better way of actually describing it. It's an influence in space-time, whether it's a positive or a negative. So the hypothetical idea of a white hole is a singularity, and a black hole is a singularity. Also,
right.
when time is at 0 and everything is pure energy, that would be a singularity as well, because space-time is at a singular point. That's why it's referred to as a singularity.
Right. I was just asking because because I've heard that calling the beginning of the universe or something, singularity, is wrong because your singularity
It's
is like,
it's
you know what I mean?
wrong, but at the same time, it's right because both aspects, by definition, it's right, but by example, it's wrong because it's the aspect in which d and t equals 0, but e equals infinity.
So when t equals 0, e equals infinity, which means that there's
No,
infinite energy. Or did I miss here?
there are three aspects towards space-time: distance, time, and energy.
Okay.
When t equals 0, then distance and time is 0, and energy will be at infinity.
Hmm.
But when energy equals 0, distance and time will be at infinity. That's the transition from high energy and dense to low energy and sparse. That's the shifting and the actual exact explanation of what the Big Bang truly is. That's why singularity is a bit of a misnomer, but it is the right word to use. But it's a
Yeah,
bit of a
that's what I was saying. I heard people before saying it's a misnomer. You're saying it's both right. It's both right to call it that and wrong because of what you said. Just just clarifying. Just trying to understand.
But the aspect, what I'm referring to when it comes to with mass requires matter. So that's why that doesn't come into the effect, Stephen.
Did you call me Steven?
No, in the chat.
Oh, sorry. I'm not looking at the chat.
I'm
Are you talking
looking
about
at both of them.
Stefani?
Oh,
Or Stephanie?
Stephanie.
Oh.
I'll just call him Step. That way I just use the first four letters.
Now, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but are you familiar with the hypothesis? I should use the right word. Hypothesis that that our universe is inside of a fifth dimensional black hole, or more specifically in the event horizon, if I remember correctly. Also Stephen Hawking seemed to have talked about that.
The
Yes.
aspect of what is being accepted more along the lines is what we are actually referring to as the expansion is an incursion in our fifth space from an outside source. So there is a possibility that we could have actually been caught into an external source, and it's what's stretching out and accelerating the universe.
Yeah.
There are many different hypotheses. That's the problem when you start getting closer to the point which t equals 0.
Yeah,
We don't have enough.
I get that,
Coming
but
up with a bunch of
I really
hypotheticals at that point.
exactly. I really do find the hypothetical that we are part, that we are inside. It, pardon my phrasing, but that we are inside the fifth dimensional black hole. Which, if that's
No,
true, then
third dimensions is space, what we exist in. Fourth dimension is time. Fifth dimension is space time. It's what you would be referred to as the sixth dimension. Because the sixth dimension would be actually doing the inference onto space time, and that's what's accelerating and stretching out of space time.
so it would actually be a a sixth dimensional universe that would do that, or black hole. I remember seeing something about that, the fifth dimensional black hole.
I'm not sure exactly if space-time would count as itself as a fifth dimension.
It is when it comes to mathematics, simply so it can actually be expressed easier when you start talking about relativity.
Okay, I'm just clarifying because I always heard of it as a four-dimensional construct, but I didn't know that could be mathematically defined as a dimension in and of itself. So that's
It's
new
a
to me.
combination of the first three dimensions and being influenced by the fourth dimension, which is what time is. That's why some people say that it is a fourth dimensional construct caused by the interaction of the first four, and some refer to it mathematically as the fifth. Again,
Okay.
you're talking about hypothetical mathematics. It's just easier to refer to it as a fifth when you're talking about things that are used mathematically at the point of t equals 0.03 to the power of -13, I think it is. It's beyond that you start getting into the point of, okay, I don't know.
Okay. Hey, Speed, hey, Scott. I just want to acknowledge you guys are here.
Hey.
Well, thank
Did you
Sam,
hear?
and, it's
Did,
good
did
to
you hear
hear
Sal
from
come
you.
at you as a troll? Called you a troll?
Oh, he did?
He did, yeah.
Oh, I wasn't there for that part. Or maybe show it to me again in a sec. I guess, while Beamsy is here, and I don't want to take up too much of his time, but so in the side chat, I was asking about the difference between energy lost due to the expansion of space and energy lost due to these supposed tired light proposals that sometimes float around. Because what
Neither
I
of them are very accurate because
okay.
energy isn't actually lost when space-time is stretched out. There is the limitation of the velocity in which light can travel, which creates an aspect of it appears to be stretched, but it's still traveling at the same velocity with the same energy. So it gives you the apparent aspect that light is actually losing energy when in fact it's just shifting. That's why you hear about the apparent red shift and blue shift.
So are you talking about, for example, how you can, in different frames of reference, observe objects with different energies or different apparent energies, I guess I should say?
Well, a better example of this is viewing the Andromeda galaxy. It's actually slightly blue shifted.
Right.
Because it's actually approaching us faster than the speed of light, apparently. But if you're actually viewing something like the Orion Head Nebula, that is actually redshifted because it is relatively moving away from us at faster than the speed of light. That is where people get the idea that it's losing energy because it's still traveling at the same speed though. Yeah, sorry, wrong word. It's traveling at the same velocity. Because speed is different to velocity, and I don't want to get into that conundrum. The only time that it would actually lose energy is when it actually interacts with something.
Okay. And well, I'm trying to understand because I thought velocity wasn't exactly connected with the cosmological redshift. It wasn't exactly a Doppler redshift. The
redshift is
the
caused
same
by
things
the
you're talking
expansion.
about here apply.
Yes, because the expansion of the galaxy. I'll try that again. Sorry, I've just woken up and I'm having
That's
breakfast
okay.
at the same time, so the brain isn't fully kicked in. The expansion of the universe is what can actually create that redshift. If something is moving, if 2 points are moving further away from each other, that would actually stretch
Okay.
out something that's going between them, but wouldn't affect its velocity.
Okay. Right, because I've the analogy that I've heard, it described how it can how light can from distant galaxies can appear to be redshifted and therefore appear to have lost energy since their energy is connected to the wavelength. Um, the way I've seen it phrased is that from one frame of reference, from one frame of reference, you can see something to be sitting still basically, and therefore it appears to have less energy. Whereas from a different frame of reference, you can see it moving, or I guess not in this case actually moving, because expansion, like you said, doesn't actually involve motion of the galaxies, but moving with respect to you in that kind of sense, it appears to lose energy relative to your frame of reference. I don't
the
know.
light itself does not actually lose any energy. It's just been stretched, would be a better way of putting it. A good way of putting it is if you get a piece of rubber and you have 2 points and a drop of water that's going between those 2 points. If you then swell up that rubber, and the water is still traveling from one point to another, but the apparent distance is increasing, what would happen to that drop of water?
It would appear to kind of thin out.
Yes, it would elongate, but would any of it disappear?
No.
Because it still has the same amount of energy. This is a good way of visualizing it, but it's not the same mechanics that we're talking about. The light itself is not actually losing energy. The energy is just spread out over a further apparent distance.
And so I guess to ask kind of a follow-up question, does this, what you're saying, account for example, I've heard of Noether's theorem, I'm probably mispronouncing that, that if space-time as a whole is changing, then the conservation of energy doesn't necessarily globally apply to the universe as a whole in general relativistic terms.
In general relativistic terms, conservation of energy has to be thrown out the window, because conservation of energy only comes with an enclosed system, and we have no way of knowing if the universe itself is a closed system. Sorry, if space-time itself is a closed system. We do know that the universe is a closed system, which is why it can actually apply to thermodynamic rules, but we don't know very much about space-time itself. We can infer it in the same way that we don't understand time very well.
Okay. So what you're saying here would still apply even with respect to that?
Yes.
Okay. So then I guess just to bring it around, could you there summarize what you just said, how that's different from the tired light scenarios that some people seem to be proposing?
The aspect of tired light is they seem that as light travels, it slowly loses energy. But again, how does something slow down by itself when it's not interacting with anything? The only time that light will actually lose energy is when it interacts with something. It's the same thing with anything. Light exists within a thermodynamic regulum, so it has to actually have some way to express its energy some way. If it's traveling and the energy is lost, where does it go? It has to go somewhere, and that's the whole point of thermodynamics. So light doesn't actually get tired or anything like that whilst traveling. It only loses energy when interacting with something, like an atmosphere or a solid object.
Right.
That is
okay,
interesting.
I guess the way I've heard it phrased is that, like, for example, I don't remember the specific equation, but I know that the energy of a photon is connected with its wavelength. So if the wavelength gets longer, then the energy has to decrease. But I don't know if that
Wavelength
necessarily
and
applies
amplitude.
Wavelength and amplitude.
That's why there are 3 components to light. That's the problem with it. Because if the wavelength can increase, the amplitude could actually decrease. The energy can actually be referred to as in different ways.
Oh,
That's
okay. So
that's why energy from point A to point B in a vacuum, there will be the exact same energy in the photon. But if you then hit it through gravitational field or quickly shift the 2 parts further apart, then light would have to adapt to its new changes, would be the bad wording, but it's probably the easiest way for people to understand it.
To kind of compensate to keep the properties broadly consistent, I guess.
Yes. One thing that people don't understand is the universe is expanding in 3 dimensions, in all directions, not just one. So using the idea of an expanding bubble is actually quite a malformed vision of it, but it's the easiest way for people to actually get our Newtonian brains into it. In the same way that when you see gravitational wells, it's usually in a three-dimensional aspect. But the well isn't actually in 3 dimensions. It's in space-time, and it's a bit of a weirder shape than that, because you're talking about a fifth-dimensional geometric shape that you would have to express.
So, sorry, I'm trying to wrap my head around the stuff you're saying as we're going along. So I guess would
I'm trying to explain to you a cube, but in truth, it's an intron cube.
Right.
Do you know what a hypercube is?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, this
four-dimensional
you're
cube.
basically it's.
Or I guess it's more complicated than that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the way I usually see it is a cube within a cube connected by lines. If I
That's not actually what a hypercube is, because you've got to realize each of those cubes within the cube itself are actually of equal size.
Oh, I'm thinking about it. It's usually called a tesseract.
The tesseract is something different to a hypercube, because a hypercube is actually a geometric shape. Do you know how geometric shapes are made?
It's been a while, but remind me.
A one-dimensional geometric shape is a dot.
Right, yeah, one-dimensional, right. Sorry, like I said, it's been a while since I studied geometry.
Yes, and then you get two-dimensional geometric shapes, which you start getting... You basically take the first geometric shape you got, draw a line around it, and then how many of those equally can you fit around it to make up 180 degrees? So this is where you can get triangles, squares, and there's 2 dimensions has infinity. Because you can keep adding onto it until you get something that looks like a perfect circle, but if you look in, it's actually made up of individual lines.
Well, wouldn't that be individual dots though?
No, because you're making it up of equal size lines. It wouldn't be dots.
Fair enough.
When you then to go to 3 dimensions, say we'll take the cube, the square, which is 4. Now take your cube, do a cube next. So take your square, put a square next to it. Now make it up to 360 degrees. There's your cube. That's the one aspect of it. Now take your cube, put a cube next to it, and then make it 360 degrees of the cube, which I think, if I remember correctly, like I said, it's been a while for me as well, I think it's 12 equal-sided cubes, and then you bring them together. And in our Newtonian way, we cannot actually picture 12 equal size cubes taking up a shape in that way. That's why we represent it as the hypercube. Now, if you take the hypercube and do the same thing, that's an intron cube, and that's what you're trying to represent when you're talking about the shape of a black hole. Good luck.
Interesting. Like I said, I knew a lot of that. I just forgot it. You use it or lose it.
I just forget the number that it's made up of. That's my only downside. But again, I've only just woken up about 20 minutes ago, and I'm still having breakfast.
Oh. Maybe it'd be good to continue the conversation like a different time when you're more awake, I guess.
Yeah, give me a shower and after finish food, and I'll be a lot more able to answer your questions.
Okay. I guess. Have we exchanged emails by any chance? I don't think so. Have we? Just so I have a way of getting in contact with you when you are more available, I guess.
But you can see what I mean. Trying to actually give people within the idea of a Newtonian world the idea of working with other dimensions.
Right. Yeah.
It's difficult to explain. Now, take the intron cube, and then show light traveling along the surface of it, and then stretch out the cube even further. That's what you're trying to represent when it comes to how light is actually interacting with the expansion of space-time.
Okay. Hmm.
I'm busy doing something, so have fun.
Oh. Okay. um.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I asked this kind of complicated question, or I guess not really complicated, but just
The
unintuitive.
question isn't complicated, but it's just not very intuitive to actually explain it, and that's the
Right.
problem.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah. Is because, well, since Sal was mentioned, Sal Diarday, I guess the reason he blocked me from his channel is because I was arguing with him over whether, because it seemed to me like he was proposing a variation of a tired light hypothesis, and we were kind of arguing over the difference between that and energy supposedly being lost due to cosmic expansion. And I was trying to say that, or like I was just saying before, that from different, like relativity is kind of a complicated beast, and it's hard to define what you mean by energy or conserve, for that matter, on universal scales. And
Yes, but now you understand that the energy of the light is still conserved, even with the expansion of the universe. It just changes state.
okay, and just to clarify, what state does it change into?
Light is still light, but it's shifted to one spectrum or another through the apparent reference of what we can see it as.
Okay. So the analogy I've heard, and I guess I'll just throw this out there, maybe to see if this is what you're saying or not. Is it kind of like how if you're on a moving train and you have an object on a table next to you, you'll see it as non-moving. You'll see it with zero kinetic energy. Whereas,
here's a better way of putting it to give
Okay,
you
yeah,
a
go ahead.
bit of a graphical. Do you know how when light strikes a prism, it's stretched out?
Vaguely, yeah, because it changes the different wavelengths change speed, right?
You can actually visualize the different wavelengths. There's a difference. You can visualize the different wavelengths, but it's still actually the same photon of light. It's just become in such a way that you can visualize it.
Okay.
They are striking at different points because they've been diverged, and it gives the apparent reference that they're now different streams of light when they're still just the one stream. It's just been stretched. Does that give you a better way of referencing it within your mind?
I guess so. I don't know if it helps with my conceptual understanding, though, in terms of the cosmological expansion and redshift.
It's the same thing with the prism. Instead of actually going on a vertical, it's more of a horizontal. That's why it looks in a different way.
Yeah, that is kind of unintuitive, but okay.
Yeah, when you're talking about how do you get a rainbow when it's coming towards you, good luck with that one.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'll have to think about this a bit more.
I'm trying to think of a better way of putting it, but it is the best way to basically have it as an analogy is having it go through the prism, then literally take a 90-degree turn straight downwards, and you're standing underneath it, and you're looking up. That would be the only way you can have a reference, but it doesn't behave like that. Because you're still seeing the singular aspect of energy and the single photon of light. It's just been changed in function and form.
Okay, so I guess a succinct way of putting it would be the energy is lost, quote unquote, in expansion is an apparent effect, whereas with tired light proposals, it's a real interaction type effect.
Energy is only lost through the interaction, but this is why the prism is a bad analogy, because you're actually losing energy within the prism. We're talking about space-time actually expanding and forcing it to change its shape to fit into its new reality. And that's what is a good way of putting it? And that's why I'm trying to actually simple way to put it. There is no simple way of putting it.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of the observer.
I've seen multiple ways of phrasing it, and I appreciate your patience trying to help me understand this.
Bimsy is extremely patient to people who actually want to learn. That's what I've noticed.
The aspect you've seen the representation of the light spectrums, have you not?
You mean the wavelengths, like the full EM spectrum?
Yeah, you've seen pictures of it. How it's basically usually a line with different colors on it.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
If you're looking at a blue shifted, you're on the ultraviolet side of it, and it's coming towards you. If you're on the infrared, you're on the red side of it, and it's coming towards you. And that's the best way of doing it.
You mean moving away from you for red?
If it's red shifted, it's coming towards you with the red shifted first, because it fits into it changes its form to fit into that terminology. That way that the ultraviolet is the last one to arrive. The last component of the light photon that's actually approaching you. So the infrared is actually the first one that actually will strike the receptor or the lens or the point of inference.
Oh, you're talking about the EM spectrum here, not redshift or anything.
No, just picture someone's just shot one of the entire spectrum at you. Instead of actually having it as
okay. Sorry, I misunderstood.
You take that entire spectrum as all the colored bits and pretend it's like an arrow just flying in one direction or the other. If it's going red first, that's been red shifted, and that means it's coming from a point that's accelerating away from the point it's actually heading to. If it's actually 2 points that are closing with each other, then it would actually be blue part first. It's still one entity, but as space-time is changed by its expansion, it is stretched out further and further.
Oh, okay.
Is that probably a better way to visualize it?
So you're saying instead of like a discrete, like it either loses energy or it doesn't, you're saying it's more continuous and that just changes with the space around it.
Photon. Yeah, it's still the same photon. It's just it apparently loses energy because of the way that it's perceived.
Right.
It's not actually losing any energy because there's no energy loss. If you can register the energy that it has at the point of departure to the point of arrival, it will be the same from the entire photon.
Right.
But they would actually be perceived differently because of the way that they've been. I hate saying it this way, but
right. So you're saying like the reference point for the for the person observing the photon versus the point where it was emitted originally, those 2 points will register the energy differently because of the expanding space between them.
The energy value will be the same,
right?
But it would actually be registered as a different form because it would have actually been shifted, or, as I was about to say, in a bad way, it would have been stretched out.
Okay.
Well, when it's actually being approaching, it would actually be compressed, but that's, yeah.
Right. So
the galaxy doesn't
like
actually lose energy, freak. It's a little bit more complex than that.
Right. Like you're saying the energy itself as a quantity is still conserved throughout. It's just that you register different amounts of energy, I guess.
It's not amounts. It's would be like if we had a perfect system with no entropy. We could convert motion energy into electrical energy without any loss of heat or friction.
Right.
But your motion energy is no longer motion energy. Your motion energy is now electrical energy.
Right.
But within our systems, we've got entropy, which is then loss through friction and heat. But within light itself, the change of its state does not actually mean it's lost energy. It's just a change in state.
And the change in state is just the change in wavelength
and amplitude.
Okay. I'm guessing it's a more detailed explanation once you get into the actual mathematics of it.
When you get into the mathematics and start to understand wave functions a lot better, it makes a little bit more sense. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I guess that's gonna have to be my understanding at this point then, until I actually dig into the mathematics of it then.
Yeah.
That's okay though.
Yeah, the only way that light actually will lose energy is when it actually interacts with something. That's the only time that it will lose energy. So, because there's no interaction with the expansion of the universe, there's no interaction, and it needs to change its state to be able to exist within the universe. So, that's why it appears to be losing energy, but it's actually a change in state of the energy. If you can convert the photon to electrical energy, you'd still get the exact same amount of electrical energy out of the two, but they would have to be converted in different ways.
Is it sort of kind of analogous to how in a curved space-time light always travels in a straight line, quote unquote, but it appears curved to us because of the curvature underneath, or I guess that's the curvature of space-time itself. Is it sort of similar to that type of effect?
Yes, light will, like if a distance is 1 light year away, it will always take 1 year to get from point A to point B. But that is the light itself. But the photons itself could take up to 1.5 light years if the 2 points are traveling apart.
Right.
But the light year will still be 1, because that's how long it took for the light to originally get there.
Okay.
I'm going to go finish my breakfast and my shower,
Yeah, okay.
and I'll probably catch you in chat. And
Okay,
sorry
all right.
for the headaches.
Oh, that's okay. Well, thank you for at least helping me partially understand a little bit better.
I'm sorry that I'm a bit
Sorry,
confusing.
not to sound rude there. Not trying to be.
Oh, no, you're not rude. I'm just got other things on my mind, and it's the wrong time in the morning to ask me questions like that.
Yeah.
But hopefully it does help.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, Beamsy.
That's for Daniel.
I think the only way to understand this stuff is to actually understand the math, all of it.
Yeah, I think so.
and you're not gonna come up even then. When they do that, they will say, if you think you understand it, you don't understand it, because we can't intuitively grasp the math at all. We're not
Right.
capable.
Yeah.
Just we don't have the tools because of the way our brain is designed to work in a 3D world across time. We cannot visualize these other monstrosities that are the true nature of the universe. So it's going to be very difficult. And that's why somebody like, if somebody comes up with this bullshit about, the universe coming from nothing and starting at the Big Bang, and any of those kinds of normal, common sense, intuitive words to represent what is happening in the cosmos, they don't know what the hell they're talking about, because it doesn't work that way. There cannot be a start, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's just, and you have to do all of the math. You have to give your life to physics in order to come up with this. And it would be great if we had a really good science communicator that managed to, put it all together for us. But so far,
Yeah.
Yeah, haven't seen
Well,
one.
I'm sorry if I made your stream a bit too technical, the latter half of this.
No, that's fine. I'm busy messing with something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get PowerPoint to display properly in OBS, and it's a bitch. It is a real bitch. Anyway, yeah. So we're about ready to shoot her in the head. So
I got some stuff to do.
So Sal not only banned you, but now he's slamming you and putting you down alongside trolls. Like, that's what he calls us. Basically, if we criticize his ideas, we're trolls.
Did he specifically call me a troll?
Yeah.
Oh, would you mind playing the clip for me just real quick?
Okay. Let's see. I gotta play
but before we end, I'm curious how he phrased it exactly.
You are curious. You're a curious fella. Let's see. YouTube. Okay. So let's see. Trolls number 1. I think you were in Trolls number 1. So okay. We'll give her,
the label you used.
What's that?
You labeled the timestamp Trolls number 1.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Okay. I was like, what the heck are you referring to? Trolls number 1?
Well, he called me a burnout on drugs and alcohol twice.
Oh, that again.
Yeah, that again. Really offensive. Really fucking offensive. I mean, and hurtful. For a person that struggles with that shit. And I know people who are still dying of it today, and that is just fucking offensive. I mean, that would be, like I say, it's offensive as making fun of somebody in a wheelchair, or with any kind of a real issue in their lives, and to treat it like that is just rotten. I mean, and that is the most unchristian thing I have ever heard of, to use the frame or the word Christian on it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sickening. I wish he would at least stop doing that. I don't know. Anyway, let's see. 1.5. Okay, I think we're ready to roll. Okay, I'll roll it for you. You got to listen to the whole thing, because I'm not sure where.
Oh yes, I don't put up with. I put up a little bit with bullies, but trolls, spammers, I don't have time for. These people who think they know science and they don't, and they come here trying to lecture me on science, and it's like, that's fine if you have the qualifications, but if you're like emos just repeating talking points, I just don't have time for it. Same for Andrew Cumming, same for some other guys who shall not be named, that just come here with such an attitude. And I know one of them's a high school dropout, just burned out.
Yeah, that. And then okay, Andrew, you've heard of molybdenum, right?
Sorry, the element?
Yeah.
Molybdenum?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Particularly boron and molybdenum. So we believe that minerals containing both were fundamental to life. We now believe that the oxidized form of molybdenum was there too.
Molybdenum. Do you know of anybody that's taken a basic chemistry course that would call it molybdenum? And he's talking about not knowing science. I mean, come on. And I don't think it was a pronunciation problem. I don't think he'd ever seen the element before, and he had never read it before, because he was so, he was so, normally when you have trouble pronouncing something, you'll go blah, 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 like me and Scott did this morning.
Yeah.
We were trying to say molybdenum before we had coffee, because my brothers worked in a molybdenum mine. Say that 10 times. Molybdenum mine in Colorado when I was a child. So my brothers went to work in this weird ass mine, and they mined molybdenum. But even when I was 10 years old, I knew how to say it. So I'm just saying, when he goes on about people not knowing science, I mean, I looked at his degrees, and he has nothing in biology or chemistry at all until he gets to the NIH. And I don't know what the course is for the NIH, but what I suspect is the NIH offers a sort of a in a nutshell course to educate people a little bit on genetics.
Right.
Like if you were in a company and you had some people working for you, and you needed them to be able to talk at least half-assed intelligently about genetics, you would send them to one of these, these bottled courses at the NIH. I'd have to look into what he did, and it just he is just a real sad sack of shit, and I don't understand why some people still hang out with him. I don't know. Anyway. I'm not impressed. Not impressed.
I can see that. Well, we probably shouldn't hate on him too much in one stream, eh?
I like him. The one good thing about Sal is he will dig in deep enough to give me some traction, something to come back on, right? Whereas Ken Hovind is, just idiot. He's never gonna, he's never going to come up with anything that I am going to want to talk about. Whereas Sal Cordova at least digs in enough, to topoisomerase and collagen or whatever, that he says wrong shit that leads me into an interesting level of depth. So I appreciate that from Sal, and he's good at that. But it's still, when you scrape away all the bullshit on the top of it, it's kind of like Kent Hovind. What was that film where the guy was he was catatonic and he couldn't talk, and then they gave him this drug, dopamine. Robin Williams was in the movie, and all of a sudden he became super intelligent or whatever. But it's like I don't know. And I don't know where I was going with that. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, he does give me shit to talk about, and I really appreciate that from Cordova.
Yeah.
And you too. He's digging up all these physics papers, and there's a lot of shit to discuss and talk about.
I think to some extent, that with me too.
Yeah, so we gotta give him credit for that.
Yeah,
he's like a few levels above, 100 levels above Hovind.
Hovind.
So on Wednesday, the 11th at 7 p.m. on Standing for Truth channel, our Ian Chen is going to be debating the great Hovind. Yes. And everybody must tune in for that.
Cool.
So when Scott left, did he tell me why?
He said something in private chat, but I didn't see it.
He's got to see a man about a car. Okay. Got it. Okay.
Well, I don't have anything else for you, so
yeah, I don't have too much.
End it.
I'm getting all stirred up about natural selection again. I had an email conversation with Danny. And I think I ended the discussion. I explained to Danny why Fodor is so off in the weeds, and I'm not sure if Danny got it or not, but anyway. Anyway, we'll get into that on another day, maybe Wednesday. How about that?
Yeah.
Speed is backstabbing all who question him. What do you mean question me? So how is Sal questioning anything I say? He's questioning me based on the fact that I admitted I'm a drug addict.
I think he's talking about Sal questioning all who, or backstabbing all who question him.
No, yeah, I think you meant Sal is backstabbing all who question him. I think that's what you meant to say. Okay. Anyway. Okay, I think we're going to shoot it ahead.
Okay.
I've done as much damage as I can possibly fit into one program.
Yeah.
Okay. So, goodbye, cruel world.